Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel, The Town Watch. My name is Josh Town. Thank you for stopping by today. In this video, we're going to be doing a quick overview of a watch from the company called Diving Armour. Now you might remember a couple weeks back, I took a look at their Narval watch from this company, which had a crown at the 12 o'clock, very unique dive watch. And we have another dive watch here from the Diving Armour brand. And this one has some vintage vibes to it. As soon as I had this watch in hand, I definitely said to myself, this has some Black Bay 58 type vibes to it. And some people were saying also that it harkens back to some vintage Rolex Submariners. Now, I really know nothing about Rolex, and especially the vintage Rolexes that are out there. So if you know any of that information, what this watch kind of resembles, please leave that down in the comments below. But I definitely see some Black Bay 58 going on here and some different aspects of this watch. But right out of the little travel case that they give you, this watch feels very nice. It feels like it has some heft to it. It doesn't feel cheap. Everything right out of the box seems to be finished very, very nicely, with some polished surfaces and some brushed surfaces as well, and everything looks really, really good. Those are some of my first impressions of this watch. This watch goes for $330 on the Diving Armour website, which will be left in the description below. And this watch is called the Sub 53. There's also another model that has some differences with the bezel and the dial, and that one's called the Sub 56 if I remember right. But I'll leave links to their website where you can check out these watches. They're using an NH35 from Seiko here, like a lot of micro brands do. It is sapphire crystal that is going on here, protrudes a little bit above the bezel there. Speaking of the bezel, there is a ceramic insert here on the bezel, and it is loomed with C3 Super Luminova. And while we're there on the bezel, let's get some of the bezel action. Pretty positive action. I wouldn't say it's hard to turn, but you do have to put some strength into it a little bit. And the grip, I feel like, could be a little bit better. I feel my finger slipping some there, but not too bad. And it looks good, and overall good bezel action in my opinion. You do get 300 meters of water resistance here, and yeah, it's a pretty plain and simple watch. No date, and just looks good. You know, nice case shape. And speaking of the case, let's break out the calipers and get some dimensions on this watch before we go any farther. See what we're working with here. So let's see. All right, about a 41 millimeter case or so. And let's check the crown diameter as well. 7.8 millimeter crown, nice size crown. Case thickness here is going to come in 14.7 as I'm measuring it. Lug to lug distance at the lugs is 50.2, and then at the male end links here we're getting 56.1, and then we have a lug width of 22 millimeters, and the bracelet tapers down to a little under 18 millimeters. So there's your dimensions for this watch. I'm going to throw it on the wrist here in a second, but I just want to try out this crown. I like having a nice oversized crown. It unscrews nicely. You can wind that NH35 movement. The crown is signed. I would like to mention that as well. So there is a ghost date position on this watch. Some people hate that. Doesn't bother me too much. You know, if I found a ghost date position on, you know, $1,000 watch, it probably would bother me. But at this price point, it doesn't bother me too much to have that ghost date position. But overall, I'm impressed by the finishing of this piece. As I think I mentioned, it has some nice heft to it. Get some drilled lugs here. I believe they're using split pins for the links, but the bracelet feels pretty nice and seems to articulate pretty well. Let me take off the watch that I'm wearing, which is my tried and true Citizen ProMaster Tough in black, and we'll put this one on the wrist. Alright, so here it is on my 6.5-inch wrist. I did move it in a few micro adjusts here, but if I wanted to make it fit, I need to probably take out a couple links. But yeah, looks good. The lug to lug distance is kind of pushing my limits, especially with the male end links. And the thickness of this watch, it's quite hefty in that area as well. I would like to see maybe a little bit thinner, but overall I think I could get by with this if I wanted to with my little tiny twig wrists. Something to note about the clasp: it is a milled clasp, and you do get a number of micro adjustments here on this portion of the clasp. But there is no push buttons or anything when you fold this over, so it's kind of just a pressure thing. You do have the fold over as well, and you just kind of pop that open there. Just take note of that. You can see the case back of the watch has some engraving there with a diver and some information as well, and nice screw down case back. Let me check the lume on this watch, so get my flashlight out and we'll charge it up. Alright, here's a nice shot of the lume. It's always a great thing to have a lumed bezel, in my opinion. I don't think I know anybody who doesn't like a nice lumed bezel, so everything is glowing really, really good. I'm very impressed by the application of that C3 Super Luminova on this piece. Alright, so after spending just a few days with this watch, some of the likes that I have, I feel like it's an overall solid piece. Overall, it's a good looking piece in my opinion, and I think it comes in at a good reasonable price at that $330. I didn't talk too much about the dial, but I feel like the hands and the metal around the indices has kind of a rose gold color to it, which is kind of cool and unique. So I think they did a great job in putting this watch together, and definitely feels like a good quality piece for the money. Some of the dislikes that I found the bezel a little bit hard to grip and hard to use, and I felt also like the watch was a little bit thick for what it is. I'd like to see him make it maybe a couple millimeters thinner. And also the clasp, it's a workable clasp. I would like to see some push buttons here rather than the pressure fitment that is going on, but that's really just a minor thing. You guys, let me know what you think about this Diving Armour Sub 53. Please leave your comments below. I would love to interact with you down there, and if you're interested in this watch, all the links will be in the description as well. If you liked the video today, please let us know by hitting that like button. It really helps out. Appreciate it very much, and thank you for tuning into the channel today here on the Town Watch. We'll see you next time.